Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk with Carrie Jemii. It is the Tuesday that I am here, and I am so excited about today's show. I'm talking about something that people consider taboo, and I was nervous myself. I'm like, oh my goodness, what people gonna think? What they gonna say? So I had to find the best person that could bring this topic to everybody because she just eludes it anyway. She's a beautiful person, very active in the community. It's an honor to know her. She's family. And I'm just glad she's here. I'm glad she was available. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest on, Dr. Reda McDowell.
Hi. Hey, Carrie.
Glad to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for thinking of me. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. Like I said, you're the only person I could think of to do this one. Okay. I was like,
that makes me feel good.
So real quick, just give the audience a little bit of background about you and who you are as a woman.
Oh, that's loaded. That's a bit more than an elevator speech, but I'm gonna make it as swift as possible. By trade, I am a community psychologist, which basically means we are researchers, and I am a sexual researcher specific to things that challenge and coach Black women as it relates to sexual communication and sexual health. And from that, I've had opportunities to speak and teach and research with several different universities and publish and podcast and just spend my days getting an opportunity to understand Black women and sex and all of its layers.
Exactly. It is so many layers, okay?
Yes.
So with that said, you have a few things you've been busy, right? So you also have a nonprofit called Pretty Ink.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
So the great thing about researching women, we're great storytellers. And at the end of quote unquote focus groups, I got a lot of information from them, and they had questions about, well, what about my children? It's a lot of things that we may misunderstand, a lot of resources that we didn't have for various reasons, and we missed the kids. So I decided to write a curriculum and curate a program that mirrored some of the work that I did with adult women to open up those opportunities to do the same thing with children, not encouraging abstinence, not promoting marriage, but really letting them know the truth of the matter so they can prevent things and protect themselves. So Pretty is a nonprofit for that partnered with Chicago Public Schools about 4 years ago. So we've had the blessing to serve almost 800 girls at this point. And we love it.
Amazing. Look at you. I told y'all she great. She great. She just dynamic. Yeah. So with that, again, you are studying this topic and you went a little bit further and you became an author. So you have a book called Black Women, Sex, and the Lies Our Mother Told Us. You have to expound on this. Like, what should we expect from this novel, this book?
So having the opportunity to teach human sexuality in diverse arenas like DePaul University and Roosevelt University, we would get to certain points of my course where my students of color would look at me confused, like, what do you mean by that? Or what do you mean by this? And it gave me a clear understanding that we were misinformed about a lot of stuff. And of course, once you get to the undergraduate experience, you're at minimum 17 or 18 years old. So I'm informing them of different things as it relates to sex, the same way I'm informing some of my fifth and sixth graders. So I realized that there was some things missing because we're obviously passing on some of the same stories, some of the same myths, and some of the same bold-faced lies made up for whatever reason to protect us or to shield us or to prevent us from something. But the end of the story is we all gonna do it. We all did it. We all still doing it. So we might as well tell the truth. So I decided to compile some of the stories that I got during my research and make them really digestible. So it's a really short read, and it is really in the vein of you eavesdropping on a conversation between a mother and a daughter, a grandmother and a granddaughter, two best friends, two sisters, and they're having, like a phone call or a text conversation, and it leaves you with a cliffhanger. And at the end, there are questions that I call conversation starters. So after you read it at a girls' night or bachelorette party or something like that, you can say, well, how would we navigate this if this was really our niece, daughter, granddaughter, little cousin, god baby asking us these questions? So my goal is to just poke to start the conversation.
I love it. So you hear her, get this book, so you can start poking with your own kids, especially your daughters.
Or your own adults. Like,
Okay, okay. So you said it's some lies. I know I want people to purchase your book and go out there and get it. So, but
okay.
can you give us one that you feel like a lie that we've been told that you kind of
Mhm. Well, it's available on Amazon. I love that the book was written about 4 years ago, and
okay.
it made it to the top 21 books for Black women on
Wow,
Amazon. I was
girl,
excited about that.
congratulations. That's
And
awesome.
it means that we're kind of they must believe me. So one of the first myths is this notion of quantity. So we give a story surrounding what your virginity or saving your virginity may get you. This fairy tale, this end of the rainbow situation that if you deny yourself your sexual urges, if you give yourself this timeline, if you create this scoreboard and this list and you follow these rules, then Prince Charming or Princess Charming will show up at the end of the rainbow and off goes Cinderella after the shoe fits, right? And it's one of those challenging myths where we understand why we have to instill fear and kind of tell that story and sell that story. But so many of us have run into situations where we follow those rules and maybe miss those
Mhm.
sexual opportunities. Um, and we're just sitting up, kind of being reflective on things that we should have done because we thought it was some type of rule book we were following that was going to get us a happy ending. So it's a
Wow.
story in there that tackles that, but we also tackle the myth of masturbation. We
Okay.
also tackle the fact of a lot of homophobia
Okay.
that allows women who have never wanted to be with men to reproduce in order to fix themselves or deny themselves to prove a point or be accepted in their family. So we tackle a lot of things that are in some instances really offensive and really challenging to talk about,
Yeah.
but being in a very renaissance and revelation space, I think it's time.
Okay. With that said, let's go ahead and break this ice.
Oh,
Why do you think it is so taboo to talk about sexual health, especially in the Black community?
I think that we have had so many barriers, specifically as Black Americans, where we really understood as Black women that if we add anything else, they're going to judge us even more. So at least we can keep our skirts long, we can keep our slips on, we can keep our pantyhose on. If we don't look this way, if we put the undergarments on, and push those breasts back and push those hips in, then maybe they won't steal us. Maybe they won't rape us. Maybe they won't do all the things that they've done to us.
Mm,
Unfortunately, that fear carried over into the good parts about sex. So
mm,
really my challenge is to kind of help us eradicate some of the negative thinking surrounding sexuality so we can use our communication and our strategies as Black women alone to have great sexual relationships and enjoy sexual opportunities as they come on without some of those like scary myths that come along with it. I mean, I know in our households, and I'm saying our because I have a big community and I pretty much think we're the same. It was if you get pregnant, I'm putting your ass out. Or if
mm,
this happens, you knew what you couldn't say. You were trained to be a liar early because you were scared of it.
mm,
So if you fear something for so long, you kind of train your subconscious to lie. And
yeah.
then you never ask good questions, you never reach out. And unfortunately, as a researcher, I get the horror stories, right? So
Mm,
I get the side of the story where the girl that's an undergraduate has no idea that her cramps are actual endometriosis.
mm,
And she gets there and she has sex
wow.
and she's so scared to call mom or call auntie or call cousin because they're judgmental and
Mm,
unrealistic. So she goes to the doctor, and the doctor, a race not like our own, encourages a hysterectomy. And instead of her calling someone and saying, listen, let me show you this picture, let me tell you how I'm feeling, let me, explain some of my symptoms,
mhm,
she signs off on it. So
mm,
now we're on the back end. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible outcome when we don't give our children the tools that they need to survive sexually in
mhm.
general.
And you know what? You flowing with me because my next question is just that. Because I was just like, dang, this is so good. Because I
Mhm,
remember even when I started my period, um,
mhm,
because in my household we didn't really talk about it. My
mhm,
grandfather was a pastor, my father was a deacon, my mother, everybody would go to church and all this stuff, right? But nobody really talked about it. And this happened actually at church when I came on, and I'm like, oh, I got a sore. I'm bleeding. Like, so I went to my mother like, hey, I'm bleeding. I need a Band-Aid for my, my private part. She like, girl. So, it wasn't nothing that was talked about. So, I mean, and so with that said, and what you were saying just previously, why should parents have a conversation about sexual health with their kids? And why is it so important? And should anything be left off the table? Should it just be about quote unquote your anatomy, quote unquote the birds and the bees, or should we be really informing our kids about sex in all its glory?
If you give your daughter your truth, she may be able to survive your trauma. And I say that because the only way for me to really help you prevent anything is to tell you how to prevent it. So if we want to make sure that our young Black men know how they should behave when the police pull up, it's to save their life. Right. I'm thinking that to tell her about her vagina and call it that and not a pocketbook or a private part, and give her possession and ownership and love for her body from head to toe, specifically her vagina, and then train her on how she should love and respect it and honor everything about it. Give her some of your life stories and experiences in the doses that she can take. And you, as her mother or her aunt or her cousin, you know where she is in her level of maturity based on the conversations that you should be having with her about everything else. And with young people in our current climate, they're inundated with reality. So if they can see, a Black man get murdered in the street, I think we can go ahead and tell them the truth about sex, the good stuff. So they know exactly how to hear your voice run through them when they're in a real situation. And they have to remember that you told them that if you do this, you might smell like this. If you do that, you might itch like this. If you do this, you should drink more water or drink cranberry juice, because what you're doing is making them informed so they can inform medical professionals that may be trying to be predatory towards them or take advantage of them. They know exactly what it's supposed to be because they got an auntie to call.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Oh, you are so great. Oh my goodness, you are so good.
Can we drink on your show?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
I would have said it was water, but everybody watching would know I was lying.
That's okay. Do what you feel is best. So my next question, we're gonna go a little deeper into the subject in your research, and I want to ask you about women. Why do you feel that women so often forego their needs when it comes to sexual health to meet the needs of others?
I think that self-care overall with Black women is a challenge. We put ourselves on the back burner and we make up reasons to do it. It's funny, I was working with a colleague of mine this morning, Dr. Vanessa Goodar, who's working in self-care. And it's so much training that we need on prioritizing ourselves. And I don't know if you've ever gotten into a debate with a Black woman about putting her kids first, or you don't understand why she got to put the church first, or you don't understand because you're not. And it's literally you're fighting them to love themselves.
Right.
And if they had an idea of how calming things could be if they got ahead of a lot of the reproductive challenges, if they decided to look at themselves and touch themselves, ask questions about themselves, and really begin to pour into themselves, which leads to confidence, which leads to all of these other things. So if you're sure about your body, it makes a lot of things really, really comfortable, which is why, health is promoted the way that it is, mentally as well as physically. So as Black women, we put everything first, and then we get around to ourselves, which is why, we're, leading deaths in cardiovascular arenas. And we really just have to be intentional about putting ourselves first and knowing everybody will really be okay. I'm actually reading the book on boundaries now, and it's not easy because we like to call it love when it's really like so self-sacrificial. So
wow,
we make up reasons to forego it, and we can go back and forth on the list.
So with that said, and
Mhm.
you talked about talking to women and everything. So how often in your field do you hear that women are really not being satisfied?
Actually, 85 to 90%. I think
Wow.
that a
That's
lot
high.
of it is it is high.
Well,
And there are two reasons. We put our orgasms in other people's hands. And that's a disservice to the person that's trying to please you. You don't even really know how to help them because you don't even really know what's happening because you didn't do it to yourself first. So what I like to call early onset masturbation is a good thing because now we can have a conversation. You know, too hard, too soft. Can we try this? Can we do that? And you are more comfortable even speaking about sex. Talking about sex is sexy, and it usually leads to sex. So, with that being said, if you give yourself the opportunity to learn yourself, you can help someone else navigate. Now, on the flip side, you got some lazy partnerships. You have some partnerships where you don't have a connection anyway. You don't even feel anything tingling through you when you're kissing. So you're fighting for the orgasm. You guys
mm,
aren't, really dancing. It's no choreography there. You kind of just and love to use the analogy of dance because we've seen dancers that just flow and we've
mhm.
seen dancers that are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can see them counting, right?
Right.
And it's because there's no work being put into the flow of things, or there's no communication about being dissatisfied. The first question I ask any of my students or my clients, did you tell them? And it's like, oh
Mm,
no, we just, and I'm
right.
thinking, like, well, why are we here? If you can't, that means you can't say his food nasty, his feet stink, you don't like the cigar smoke, you're not telling your partner the truth. And then you have pure laziness. You
Mm,
have partners that are truly selfish and they are selfish sexually. They are out for themselves and their own satisfaction. They're watching the clock. They want to get it done before the next quarter. They want to finish up.
mm,
They're giving you their last bit of energy of the day. So it feels like oh, okay, we might as well. And it's trash.
right.
And that's the other reason why women are satisfied. So the breaking news is in this renaissance, women are finding ways to make it happen.
Right.
They're not
Someone
sticking.
did somebody just asked a question. I was gonna wait on it, but
Mhm.
it's kind of fitting for right now. And he said, women nowadays are finding refuge in toys. And how do you think this is affecting their relationship with males? But let
Mhm.
me just say this. Toys can be used together too. It doesn't mean that, I just want to put
Yes.
that out there that if you bring it in, doesn't mean that you're saying that they're inadequate. It's
Mhm.
saying that you're just adding to the experience as well. So I'm just
Right.
saying.
Well, I definitely agree with that. I think that there are so many toys that can enhance your sexual experience with your
Mhm.
partner, but that's also something to have a conversation about and make sure that it's consensual. And you can even make the activity of going to the store, reading the directions. That could be fun. Trying something you've never tried before and laughing it out and
Right.
making a mistake. That's sexual as well because laughter is healing. But to answer your question, Mr. Muhammad, I am going to say that anything in excess affects your connection. So anytime I'm supposed to be connected to you, your body, your smell, your feel, and I'm
Mhm.
substituting pulling this toy out because maybe you're not, we're not making enough time to have sex. I'm substituting with this toy because our schedules are off and I'm asleep when you're gone and vice versa. So I'm developing a connection with what this toy is doing for me. And now my supplement for when you're out of town is turning into my go-to. In addition
Mhm.
to that, if my
Mhm.
orgasms are better from that toy, that's a challenge and a conversation for you and I to have because what am I doing to stimulate myself that you can't quite seem to catch the rhythm to help me get here? So we need to have a conversation and we need to be humble in that conversation and say, can we bring some help in? Can we kind of take things up a notch and really not expect to just know? Otherwise, your girl is cheating on you with a toy because she can't tell you that she prefers
Okay, enough said. You said teach
Oh,
queen.
thanks, Mr. Muhammad.
And
Oh, Mike.
so right. So with going on the same vein, I guess it's all working out. It's all flowing with my
Oh,
questions and stuff.
divine
So
order.
what with that said, what are some major communication errors that women make? And or men for the sake. I know you probably spoke with men too.
Mhm.
In those long-term relationships and marriages that they cannot communicate. Because I mean, let's just be real. It is a touchy subject, to go in the bedroom sometimes. To me, I don't know. I mean, just, into conversations with other people to just say, hey, woo, 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 So how can you navigate the conversation in a healthy way? And what are the communication errors people are doing that can prevent that?
The very first day of the very first workshop with my fifth graders in Pretty is self-advocacy. You are not adult enough or mature enough to communicate your body and what you need. You're probably not old enough to have a real sexual relationship and a real sexual connection with somebody. Because what I'm not going to do is be in a connected relationship where I'm giving of my body, my sweat, my spit, my everything. And when the emergency room comes to get me for whatever reason, and I can't speak for myself, and the doctor asks a man or a woman that I'm intimate with, when was her last period? When was the last time she defecated? Has she had a urinary tract infection or a yeast infection in the last 90 days? If you are consistently sleeping with me, you should be able to answer those questions because we have those conversations. And if we can have those conversations about my health, meaning my mammogram, my pap smear, fibroids, all of the many things that are connected to women and our sexual health and our reproductive health, we shouldn't be having raw sex, saying we in love, saying we trying to be connected, because you're not. You haven't even had a connected, committed conversation to talk about what it is that you like, because it's weird. Or whatever words that we use to have uncomfortable conversations. So the major communication challenge is nobody wants to read your mind. Nobody wants to constantly reassure you, give you self-esteem, and you don't take vitamins. You don't have skincare. You don't maintain your own health. And it's really, really challenging for somebody that actually loves you to really try to constantly push that, because you don't use your words, or you outsource information from people who are not in your situation, who shouldn't be advising you, or you just create a barrier and call it religion or my job, or because this is how my family is, or whatever we make up to not change.
Wow. And since my show is based on live life coaching, with that, would someone go about getting more help with this? Like, like people like you exist and they don't know that. So I know they can reach out to you, right? If they have questions, or they can schedule a consultation with you. So is that like a real world out there? Like, I know I've heard of sexual therapists and stuff like that, but
it's a very, very, very real world.
Okay.
It's been a real world. I think that people are tired, so it's being uncovered. I think that people are quitting. The pandemic said, listen, what can you do if you can't do nothing else? And it was like, well, I can't do you. And people started to Google stuff. And Netflix picks up a show, Love, Sex, and Goop. And this, revamp of And Just Like That starts to cover all these nuances, and then researchers like me are being pulled into rooms where a sexologist or a sexual psychologist was never invited before. And it's because industries, holistically and otherwise, are understanding the importance of sexual health, the importance of reproductive health. We are uncovering a lot of the ills of the medical industry as it relates to Black women and infertility, as it relates to Black women and all things covering reproductive health, trafficking young Black girls. All of that is under the umbrella of sex and sexual communication. So when you Google sexology, when you search anything else in rabbit hole podcast, we're out here and we're all screaming to the top of our lungs to ensure that the next generation doesn't repeat a lot of our traumas and a lot of our mistakes. So absolutely, you can share my website. They can absolutely follow me on all of my social media platforms. And my colleagues are always under my page, or we're always supporting each other to make sure that everyone is aware, specifically Black women, because we've been on the back burner a long time. It's time to have some good sex.
This is true. I mean, that's why I'm having this show. But it was a question that came up, and I see your mother's in the back office. She's trying to get in, but she can watch from here. So you can watch from here. How you doing? So Mr. Muhammad had another question, but I thought was good because I didn't even think of this, but you touched on it a little bit, how important it is to have mental stipulation with that individual and how it can affect the physical connection.
I think
So
I think when it's incentivized, if I am pouring into you, whether it's your project, your job, whatever it is that you have coming down the pipeline, and I'm showing you by example that, you know, when we have a conversation or when you listen to me and remember a detail, when you pour into me, I respond to you the way you want me to. If
yes,
that includes my body, if that includes, I don't know, head in the car, whatever incentivizes that, hey, when you let me in mentally and we have mental stimulation, there's a reward at the end of this. I mean, it's a part of us, individually that's truly transactional. And we want a certificate and a reward at the end of doing stuff good. So I think that women can teach men by example and by really standing on our commitment to serve and submit if that's who it is.
hmm and you hit on some great things because I don't think
Mhm,
people understand what you just said. Because
mhm,
what you said is that could take the place of physical foreplay. If
mhm.
someone knows how to mentally connect with you and care about those intricate details of your life and your day or
Mhm.
whatever, that could be a turn on for certain people. So
It's all
sometimes,
it's
yeah,
all sex. It's
yeah,
all sex. And I think that, whether it's texting all day, whether it's, sharing music, whether
yes.
it's, understanding film and art and whatever the nuances of your person are, I think that it goes into what the end of the day finale is, which is
Mhm,
usually the physical part. But if
mhm,
we're flirting all day and we sending pictures and we cracking jokes and we're developing our own language and our own cadence and our own pace and our own thing,
mhm,
all we're doing is letting the beat build. So tell each other to kill each other at the end of the night.
mhm. Yep.
But it's
Uh,
work. And it's one of those things where a lot of people don't want to do all that work.
they don't. Yeah, they want to be like you said, lazy lovers. So
Mm.
there you go.
Mhm.
We had a question from the audience again, and is it important to be a? I don't even know how to say it right. So you
What do
say it.
you mean important? Like I would never say like a pansexual, an asexual, or trisexual, bisexual, or sapiosexual was important or not. That's loaded. So what do you mean?
I come back, Shelby, and ask the question correctly. All right. So we'll wait on Shelby to come back, and I have some more questions here.
Mhm.
Uh, okay. Here's a loaded question. So, what should men know that they don't or miss the mark with? I think we kind of touched on a few things, but what are some things that they truly miss? Because I think to me, it's sometimes it's just in the beginning of a relationship, plain conversation of what do you like? So,
I
because
think
something is, I mean, it could be easy as that. So,
um I would say in some experiences that I've heard of and that I've had is they don't listen. They start to try to teach really early when they haven't earned the teacher spot.
mm,
And, if we are having conversations about maybe fitness that I need to get into, and you want to suggest that conversation one or two or date one or two, you miss the mark. We
mhm,
haven't even gotten to the point where I'm taking advice or insight on my body at all. We haven't even started to text or flirt about my body. So to insert that, um, I need to begin, physical fitness in a way early. It's like, ooh, it's really like me coming in telling you what you need to do with your finances. And it's like, ma'am, I haven't even spent the dime on you. Like, how are we there? And early onset, because I'm going to throw this at women and how women miss the mark, over talking and not actually having a conversation
mm,
and giving your extensive timeline uh, about your life plan.
mhm,
And the only plan for the day was, eating, vibing, s- enjoying the space, and you're into, what does
mm.
Steve Harvey have all y'all saying? What is your 5-year life plan or something? And
Oh, that
it was
book,
like,
Think Like a
oh,
Woman,
and
or
it
something.
was like,
I
oh
mean,
my God, it's so much stuff to talk about just to try to start a connection before you
mhm,
get there. So I think we missed the mark overdoing, over talking, overselling on
mhm,
either end. And it could come off as a bit pretentious and you're not really trying to get to know each other. You're trying to like sell yourself. Then it
mhm.
starts to feel like a pitch. And nobody wants, that. So I hope I made that make sense.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Rose Bryan.
Yes. So Shelby came back to, I guess you said sexual is for play for the mind. So we talked about that a little bit, but I guess let's go back to mental stimulation. So.
I mean, I like that I messed with Mr. Shelby. It's so hard because it can be twisted as manipulation.
Ooh.
And it's the level that I think everyone wants to get to with the mental connection, but it's almost like when you graduate to the highest level, that's a hell of a responsibility. And it's the highest level of stimulation, but it's also the highest level of connection. And it's almost a complete wipeout of deceit. And some people live to be able to hide something. Some people can only maintain their relationship if they're hiding something. And to say, we're going to do it on this level, we're going to take it to a tantric level, or we're going to take it to the point where we want to identify as sapio. I can say the importance is relative to that person.
Okay. In that relationship.
This topic could get you canceled. So even being open as I am, I'm like, well,
right. I know you're doing great. You're doing great.
I do a private chat, Shelby. You can type it.
T. Lee came and she said, how do you handle men that love sex like to the point that they want it 7 days a week, twice a day, back to back, especially if your drive is low?
I think that you either have to tap someone in or you got to tap out.
Tap
someone in or you have to tap out, because the hardest thing to accept is that man is that man. And if he told you, if he had enough love and respect to say, listen, this is my sex drive, this is what I like, this is what I want to try, this is what I want to do, it's like, well, baby, you said you want to be my everything, this is everything that I want. And if you have a list of things that you want and he's meeting those requirements and he needs stimulation 7 days a week, then you may have to look into somebody to help you out, because to ask somebody to change their sex drive is like changing a blood type. Like, it's not that they don't want it anymore. They've just figured out how to supplement it. And I think that the hardest thing for Black women specifically to digest is the fact that demanding fidelity is just something that's coming out of your mouth. If he's telling you or she's telling you exactly what she needs, you fall in love with somebody like seafood that's allergic to seafood, then you have to give up your addiction to crab legs.
Yeah.
Or they gotta go somewhere and eat crab legs with somebody else.
Yeah.
And there are people with low sex drives that want to have low amounts of sex. It's just not who you with.
You said tap. She said she's gonna tap out though. She's so silly. Hey, it's the truth.
Or you can pretend not to know. Ignorance is bliss.
Yep. There you go. Mr. Muhammad got all the questions tonight. What would be your warning or advice to young males and females before having sexual encounters?
I think that on the surface level is go get tested. Make sure that you're safe. Decide if you want to, wear protection. Decide the type of sex that you want to have. That's surface level. Under that level is understand the meeting point. And what I mean by that is understand if you're in a relationship and that person is not in a relationship. Understand if you have invested more or you have kind of scripted the relationship and you don't have a confirmation from the other person that sex means whatever the next level is going to be for you. So I would say clearly communicate what it is sex means to you, honestly. If you're saying, I just want to do this physically because I'm really physically attracted to you, then that person now has the choice. You told them that you didn't want anything more. You didn't want anything extensive. And this is for young people and older
Older
people. Age
people.
is relative.
Yes.
And if you're a person that's like, listen, when I have sex with somebody, I go all in, head to toe, in and out. So I'm going to be connected to you tomorrow. I'm going to get pissed off if you don't text. It's going to bother me if you don't follow up with me. So now that person has the choice to deal with that. Some people are okay with your type of crazy. And
Right.
that's how people fall in love when they're
Right. You're right.
crazy.
Our friend said the
But
next thing, like we go together. Like
yeah, but you
right.
have to
Yeah.
say that and really be telling the truth about it, to cut some of the humor out of it. I'm taking it all the way back to, conversation. But when it comes to young people, they have, because I'm already on the next question, they have a lot of pressure from a lot of different areas that we didn't have it from. And all you can do is empower them as early as possible to understand their choice.
Right.
Understand that one, you don't have to be scared of it. You can tell them that
Mhm.
it's great, but it's a lot of responsibility. What if you really like the person and connect to the person? Tell them your love story. Tell them your heartbreak story. Give them as much information as possible. So when they're met with that day, that after school moment, that moment where they lied to you or snuck somebody in, they can hear all of your stuff. But if you didn't give them nothing to reference, they're going in there with no weapons.
Yep. Or they're gonna
You
find it
gotta
out.
gotta give them weapons of communication, weapons of information, because not to be cliche, knowledge is really, really powerful. And if I know about all of these different stories from my aunties and my cousins and my mom, I can say, oh my God, he's doing that same thing to me. And that would be my
That's why
advice.
girl talk is so powerful. You're right.
Mhm.
You're right. It's so powerful because you be like, you can exchange stories and scenarios and be like, oh, it wasn't just me, or okay.
Everybody seen a teenager at the table look up in the sky and you know that you hit home. They don't have a response, or they're kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
and then you become a real person. So when they're really going through, they can still reach out. They can
Yeah.
still feel comfortable. So that
All
would be
right.
my advice.
I got one more question, but we have another question from the audience, and then I'm going to let you get your
If
evening.
it's not if it's Mr. Muhammad, he has quota.
It's not him. It's not. T. Lee said, "What advice do you have to spice up the sex life?"
Follow my page. And I say that because I give hump day assignments. If you scroll, you
Ah,
can scroll back for the last year or so, and kind of go through and get some of those ideas. And I'm also publishing again this
all
May. So if you continue to follow me, I'm doing a fun girls guide to dating him. So it's really a list of activities and games and ideas to kind of keep it spicy, keep letting them know that it's him, that it's right, that it's what it's supposed to be, that it's what you want. Because they need a lot. But at the same time, if it's extensive, then you got to be creative and you got to be spicy and you got to be different. And we have so much fun stuff to play with. Stay tapped into young people. Like you should be listening to Meg the Stallion and the City Girls and Cardi them and just getting you some advice and getting you just a little bit of nasty that you can dig into when you need to put your wig on and be your alter ego.
right,
Because we want them to look at us forever. So we
right.
got to be something to look at too.
I hear you. We have one from, I believe this is your husband.
Mhm.
How do you teach young males to navigate the vital notion of consent in modern times?
The consent conversation is a life savings conversation, but the navigation of it is really hard because it does shift the energy. And there's never been a situation of a first kiss or a first encounter where, right at the precipice of this moment, you're like, hey, wait, can we do it? It gets weird. And as women, it's our responsibility to say it, to
Mhm.
say yes or to say no clearly, not nuanced, not because I got this playlist on, not because I cooked for you, not because we drunk, not because we have, but because I said, you know what, you can do this to me and you can do that to me. Because it takes the awkwardness off of them because their life is at stake. If you hit them with a Me Too, if you hit them with a situation of even the thought of rape, their life is ruined. The
Yes.
movement is wonderful And it is a disgrace to any woman who has used it to leverage themselves or capitalize or get some get back at any man. I love Black men and I'm related to a lot of them. So I'm disgusted at that part. So
Right.
I'm saying it's our responsibility to say, I want to have sex with you. I want you to kiss me. I want you to touch me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to lead to some good sex, I think, because everybody know what they can and can't do.
Right.
And in the reverse, say, I wanted to lay up with
Mhm.
you and I wanted to rub on you, but we ain't fucking.
Right. Yeah. So we have another question from the audience from Yolanda Coleman. How
Mhm.
do you how do you come out of your comfort zone when you are used to the old school way? Dating, getting to know someone first, then sex. Mm.
I think change is inevitable. If it hasn't been working for you, it probably doesn't work. And I think that switching up the method, you got to kind of take um some of the weight off of yourself, feeling like things should go in a certain order. You know, it's
Mhm.
almost like waking up in the morning as a 45-year-old woman wanting ice cream, but there's this imaginary voice telling you, you gotta eat dinner first. You haven't even had vegetables. It's like you do know you grown. You do know it's just a isolated situation or maybe trying something different, that I'm gonna go ahead and have this ice cream for breakfast.
Right.
And you never know. That might be your treat every quarter.
Yeah.
Ice cream for breakfast on the last Wednesday of the month, and you started a tradition with yourself that you love. I think the same thing can go with being fluid and organic. If the old school way is something you consider the right way, then
Mhm.
that's a tradition that you have to deal with, and you have to wait until you find somebody that is moving in that vein. You
Mm.
can very well have a one night stand and it turns into something traditional. It
Yeah.
turns into dating and courtship and talking and hanging out and dates and flowers and all of the things that we consider traditional. And it could lead to even marriage if that's something that you want. But I think staying stuck and not allowing energy to flow is a disservice to spirit,
Absolutely.
it's a disservice to the universe. And going in with a barrier, you kind of like already in the way of something cool that could be happening.
Love it. I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi, but I hope we catching each other. You got me?
I
We
got
good?
you. I got
Okay.
you.
Okay. All right. So my last question, and I'm gonna give you back your evening, is if you could make a public service announcement to all women, this is the last thing I'm asking. What would it be?
Orgasm a day keeps the anxiety away.
I love it. Your
Mhm.
mother's dying.
Of course. She never knows what I'm gonna say, but she agrees. And I think you owe orgasm to yourself. You know, I'm not saying that you have to have a partner for that. I'm just saying that it's a deeper connection to yourself in addition to anxiety relief, weight loss, a lot of different things. So just continuing to get to know yourself because it helps you demand the best from people because you demanded the best from yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Rita, Dr. Rita, you have been amazing.
Thank
I knew
you.
what I was doing. I was
Thank you,
like,
Carrie.
please let us say yes. So
Cause
I
we
am,
got a good sit down time, honey.
yes, this was so great. And I know
Thank
people are
you.
going to be sharing this information and coming back and watching it.
I
Um,
appreciate you having me.
so everybody wants your social media information so you can go ahead and get that out there.
Well, you can put my
Unless you
website back up there if you get the chance.
okay.
And my IG is at Dr. H Mac. But everything you need, if you know how to spell my very creative name, you can find all of my stuff. And you can stay tuned for my blog drops February 14th. It's a blog of I've had a lot of years trying stuff and doing stuff that I want to recommend, that I want to dispel, stuff that I want to talk about. So the blog drops Valentine's Day, and everything else after that is about this book. So I'm always partying for a book or something I'm doing. So stay tuned and hang out with me.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely, Carrie. It was
This
a
was a
pleasure.
this was a great show.
Thank you,
Um,
Mr. Davis.
and
And
as
Mr.
everyone,
Muhammad.
huh? What you say?
I said, and thank you, Mr. Muhammad.
Oh, you're right.
Mhm.
All his questions. Yes, you guys can know to follow me, at Carrie Jemii on Facebook, IG, and YouTube. You can catch this show on YouTube again. Everybody always asks me, how can I find a show? It is on YouTube. So you can, it's automatically there once the show is over with. I go back and watch it myself on a big screen TV. So it's there. Also, next month is my birthday month. And it's a significant birthday that I've been struggling with. But I'm going to do all my favorite things that month. So my shows are going to be my favorite topics that I had last year. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to go through and see what shows had the most views and comments, and I'm going to get a new audience or some of the same people to come back and do the show again and have some new questions and some fresh information, because
That's
we're
cool.
always changing. We're
Okay.
always evolution is always there. So thank you everybody for joining in. Let me make sure we don't got any more questions for you. No, just everybody saying great job. Okay. So thank you, Miss Reda and Dr.
All right, Carrie.
Thank you everybody for staying tuned. We'll see y'all next week. I mean next month. Bye.
Bye.